Hey guys, welcome back. Another live episode this week. I'm still kind of getting set up here, as you can probably tell, and we'll get Tim on here in just a second. But pretty excited about this week. We got a lot to talk about. Here comes Tim now. And hoping that we can get through all of it, hoping we can, at least touch on everything that we want to touch on. But I got to get Tim on here 1 second. It is a lot, man. So um, I'll wait for him to hop on before we dive into all that we're going to discuss. Ooh, yet another nice. Oh, that background's going to be money for next month.
That's what I figured. I get it started early. Ooh, am I good? Am I good without a headset, or should I go grab?
You're good. I could turn you up. Hang on. I'm like I feel really close.
You are really close. I feel really far away.
I know. I can't. I've been trying to find just this boom arm that I use so that I can type in stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
It's really limiting. No, yeah, I can just boost you up. Hang on a second. Go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
We'll get there, buddy. Don't worry. It's just you and me here right now.
Everything is not in my reach anymore since I went to the office today. I have to pack a bag for one day, so all of my tech has to travel with me for one day. It's a little annoying.
Oh, dude. No. I hear you. Well, I do and I don't, because I'm lucky enough that my job understands that I have unvaccinated children. So
It's true.
Here I am. All right, man. Let's go. I guess before we jump in, we haven't done how's everything going? You guys have been having a crazy week. How you feeling?
I can sort of. My eye doesn't hurt anymore. I managed to scratch the outer layer of my eye, unbeknownst to me. I don't know how I did it. I sent you that picture the other day. It is horrifying.
That was haunting, man.
I'm starting to finally see some white between, the color and where it should be white. So I think the blood color is receding a little bit. But yeah, it's been exciting. And Carissa's been on and off with a little bit of a cold and whatnot. And, the baby doesn't sleep at daycare. So that goes about as well as you'd expect it to go. So.
That's rough, man. But I'm glad it sounds like you guys are coming to the other side of it, which is good.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm mostly decorating for Halloween. I gotta do the outside yet. We'll figure that out one of these days.
What's your boy's name back there?
Carissa named him Greenie for her. She said, "You guys don't have penis bones, right?" And I was like, "No, we do not have penis bones." So.
Not yet.
He will eventually make his way to the lawn, but for the last couple of weeks, he's been hanging out.
Penis bones.
Yeah, he's been hanging out with me down here in my office. He sits at my desk on Thursdays when I go to work. I put him up on my computer. So
nice. No, man. Yeah, it's been a crazy week. We haven't, obviously, you may have noticed, there hasn't been a lot of action on Instagram this week. I've been commenting, returning some messages, and, we've gotten a few DMs requests, which is awesome. Love getting those requests. Keep those coming. And people have been commenting on some of the stuff that we have been putting up, which has been primarily just episode announcements, that kind of thing. So I've been trying to respond to those timely
in a timely manner.
Yeah, that's the stuff. Otherwise, I've been watching some stuff and wanting to post stuff up, man, but work has been crazy.
Yeah.
The house has been crazy. Home life stuff has been crazy. Kids, all that kind of jazz. So, it's just been one of those weeks, which unfortunately comes at the expense of you guys, because
it's Thursday.
You guys don't give me sweet, sweet kisses.
That's true.
Or pay my bills.
How is it Thursday? I swear yesterday was Sunday. This week went so fast.
Yeah, which is great.
All that trauma in 1 week is enough. So
that's true, man. There wasn't enough Xanax in the world for this week.
No.
But here we go. We made it. We're getting there, little by little.
It's 8:00 for a live show.
Yeah. Let's jump in, man. We've got a lot we're trying to tackle here tonight.
Yeah.
Um I'm kind of excited. I think I watched some stuff this week that you didn't.
Yeah.
Usually we've been, we tend just, and part of it, maybe it's a little planned, but also, for the live shows, the idea is talking about the things that we've watched in between deep dives, right?
Yeah.
And which tends to be primarily, the stuff that we watch for our own personal play. It's not, I
Yeah.
mean, the deep dive stuff is for our pleasure, but same as like, if you're sitting at home looking for something to do, something to fall asleep to,
Yeah.
um, that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Yep. Yep.
So, this week, now what tends to happen is, Tim and I, we chat and Tim will go, oh, I just watched this and it sounds interesting, so I'll watch it too.
Yep.
And we've tended to kind of be on board with each other's stuff for these live shows. But this week I'm kind of stoked because I feel like you watched some stuff I didn't see. I watched some stuff you haven't seen, and we can kind of just,
Yep.
chat about it.
And the one we shared was because you said how god awful it was that I just had to watch it. So,
Yeah. Although I think you might be surprised. I've been giving it some thought.
yeah.
And I'm not saying it's good, but
Yeah.
I'm saying I think, well, anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So this week, we want to touch on the movie that we're talking about. There is Malignant. It's it's that new horror movie from James Wan on HBO Max right now. For whatever reason, it's only available until October 5th or 10th or something like that.
Yeah.
Which, why it wouldn't be available, more. I know that it's going day and date, and
Yep.
and maybe there's, I'm sure contractually HBO is limited, to like the 28 days or whatever that it can run it day and date. But maybe delay it. Like, don't go day date, like understand that people want to see this stuff in October, not, right as people are starting to ramp up and get into their kind of horror headspace.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be available. But is it a big miss? I don't know.
I think we're in it, so I think we should just go with that movie.
Start there.
Yeah, let's start right there.
Do it.
I think when you texted me, you said unwatchable and maybe the worst thing you've ever seen. And I absolutely get that because on first blush, it is terrible. The first 10 minutes are. I texted you after the first 10 minutes, the opening, like, cold open, and I was like, why is this even on HBO? Like, this maybe cuts it as a sci-fi original movie. Maybe at that point.
Yeah.
The acting was low B level, maybe. And I was like, is this supposed to be this way? Is it not?
You ready for this?
Yeah.
We are in line, I think, with the majority of the peoples.
Yeah.
So Rotten Tomatoes audience score for Malignant is 52%.
Yeah.
Which seems high, but I get it. 76% for critics. 76%. Oh, what's up, Silvio? Thanks for hopping on, man.
I sort of get it.
Okay, I think I get it too. Why do you get it?
So the movie, the acting is pretty subpar, especially in the beginning.
Okay.
The main actors will kind of hold their own, but the subject is hilarious and sort of predictable. And then you get to this third act where just all hell breaks loose in the craziest, most insane fashion. And after finishing it and really thinking about it, it dawned on me that this is the modern version of the movie that when you were a kid and you walked down the horror aisle, you saw that cover and like you rented it, but it's total 80s horror schlock, right? It's got the body horror, it's got terrible practical effects, it's got overkill in the gore, And when I was like, yeah, this is supposed to be this way, and if it's not, don't tell me it isn't, because just accept it. You sort of hit that schlocky 80s movie kind of on the nose. It's not, but that's sort of works for it.
Yeah, so I think that's what time and hindsight has brought to me is
Yeah.
that when I heard James Wan, so James Wan wrote and directed this movie. James Wan is, we know him from Furious 7. He did Aquaman.
Right.
He's done the sequel for Aquaman. These are the most recently, but Conjuring and Conjuring 2. Conjuring was a solid horror movie.
Yeah.
Insidious. Did he do Insidious Chapter? Yeah, Insidious and Insidious Chapter 2. Now, Insidious was, but a straightforward horror flick.
Yeah.
He did Saw. I never saw Dead Silence or Death Sentence, but they might have been more campy. I just haven't seen them.
Yeah,
but we're talking Saw, Conjuring, Insidious. These are solid, like traditional, true horror movies.
Yeah.
And so I think I went into it expecting that.
Right.
And it opens up with this almost satirical campiness that immediately sets the tone that, and I think he's right? Like he's right to do it. He's saying this is intended to be funny-ish, campy, whatever.
Yep.
But I couldn't shake the mindset I went into it with, which was hoping for and expecting and wanting something more traditional, straightforward, and proper horror.
Sure.
And it really is a campy, almost laughable creature feature.
Yes.
That I think my only argument would be, look, I think there's an audience out there and there's a time for it, in that, if you're in the right headspace, you could really enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
My problem, though, is it's not as enjoyable as, say, something like a Happy Death Day to You, or something along those lines, where it is, or what's the other one? It's not Hide and Seek. Ready or Not.
Yes, right.
Something even on Netflix. The Babysitter.
Yeah.
Something that is satirical and funny and campy in a way, but still fairly solid. This one just, I think it kind of misses both marks a little bit too much to be redeemable.
Yeah.
Right? It's certainly not a straightforward horror.
Right.
But even as like a jokingly ridiculous movie, it's also not quite good enough there either.
Yeah, because the jokes don't necessarily land. It's all sort of very easy stuff. You got the cop who is, the cops are kind of caricatures. The one kind of main cop, his partner is an African American woman, and she's very like stereotypical in some of the ways, some of the lines that she says, some of her exclamations. You're like, okay. And to your point, like, obviously it's not Scary Movie style ridiculous, but it's a movie that they would pick up in that franchise and not have to walk it far to hit that sort of Scary Movie-esque ridiculousness, right? Like, I'm thinking of Chris Elliott with the little hand, and you got this girl with a brother growing out of the back of her head, right? Like,
dude, I couldn't shake the Chamber of Secrets feel of it. Like, as soon as, you know how it's going to end going into it. And when they revealed this thing, I'm just like, yo, this boy is like 3 Horcruxes away from coming back and killing Harry Potter. Like, let's get Dumbledore up in this. And it was just, I couldn't shake that, man. Like, you can't, I hate to say it, right? But there's some times where something comes before and does a thing. You can't do that anymore because Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets exists, right? And when Quirrell unwraps his little doodad and Voldemort is on the back of his dome, Well, sorry, James Wan, you can't stick this chick's brother on the back of her head with his, T-Rex hands.
And I'll take
Like,
further, they did that in the fourth season of American Horror Story.
never seen it.
There was based on a real life sideshow performer who had a face in the back of his head, and it told him to kill people. So it wasn't. Yeah, it's well in the show it told him to kill people, but in real
Got
life,
it.
had a dead.
No, aware it's not a documentary.
But like, yeah, I mean, that's the moment it sent it over the edge, right? Up until that point, you're like, oh, there's a ghost, there's a spirit, it's in her head, like something's going on here. But when they cut to that found footage that her sister finds of her therapy sessions, and they pan around, and there's like little arms reaching out the back of this, like, how did this girl forget that she was 8 years old and forgot that she had a little brother growing out of the back of her skull? Like,
dude, and when she's touching the back of her head and it's bleeding, and it's just bleeding, like, you didn't feel the face? Like, you didn't. I mean, the other thing I couldn't shake, I think I sent you the GIF, was the My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It's like, inside the lump was my twin. I was just like, this is all this is. And so I just, again, like, it's the restaurant that tries to do too many things and doesn't do one thing well enough. Is kind of how I felt about this one. I will say, they're all my biased opinions, obviously, that's what we do. But my own bias really came from my disappointment in what I was hoping and expecting, because the trailers, none of it played as camp.
yeah,
Right? Like, when you watch the trailer for Happy Death Day, you get it. When you watch the trailer for whatever, it's slipping my mind, you get the tone and the feel of what it's supposed to be. And if it's, dude, like, even some Peter Jackson's early work is major gore fest stuff.
Right.
And, Bad Taste and all these other movies. Like, I'm about the Dead Alive. Dude, I love those movies, right? Because you know what you're getting into. Army of the Dead, all this kind of stuff. I'm for it.
Yeah.
Well, not Army of the Dead. Army of Darkness. Army of the Dead is terrible.
Yeah.
But you know what you're coming in for, and when you're in the right mindset and in the right mood, it just hits the right note, and it's genius. It's not what happened here, and I think it's poor marketing. I think it's poor advertising. I think it's and then in the end, even once you can kind of wrap your head around it, it does too many things that are nods to other ridiculous things that you never hit a point in the movie where you can shake your expectations,
right,
and really settle into something and enjoy it. It just keeps pulling you out and making you laugh in the wrong way.
And the fact that it does come down before Halloween season really gets into, like, I feel like you could throw this on later in October, or even Halloween weekend. Halloween's a Sunday, Friday, Saturday night. You're just like, I want to watch something ridiculous for Halloween that is not necessarily even scary because it's just ridiculous. I mean, this girl, when her brother takes over, is impervious to bullets all of a sudden. Like,
Well, I think she's just so fast. Like, it's, yeah, I don't, whatever.
On your hands and feet backwards. Yeah. No, it just misses the mark. I feel like you build in, it's like a bad Christmas movie, right? You build in watches because it's a Christmas movie out at Christmas time. So I feel like if you're going to put out a horror movie that's whatever it's trying to be, and you're missing the key parts of the month, that just seems like a miss. Yeah, ultimately, you have to stick with it. You don't have to watch it.
No, I would not recommend this.
It doesn't. You're not missing anything. If campy B-movie stuff is your thing and you want to see some just ridiculousness, fine. Put it on the background while you're decorating or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you've got like 4 more days to do it.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, Malignant on HBO Max. Yeah, like I said, I think available until It's either the 5th or the 10th, but it's not much longer. So check it out if you're curious. I don't recommend it.
The best thing about it was on HBO Max. I got a little preview and a reminder that tomorrow is the new Sopranos story, which is the Many Saints of Newark. So the young Tony Soprano, with Tony Soprano being played by James Gandolfini's actual son. So that's going to be interesting. I'm super excited to delve back into that world. So I was like, oh, yeah, right. That's tomorrow. HBO Max in theaters. So
yeah, that's going to be fun. Now, I noticed, and you're a Jersey kid, I noticed you said Newark.
Yes.
Is because the rest of the world says Newark.
Many Saints of Newark. Yeah, it's...
But is Newark the thing, or did you just mess up and I'm calling you out?
Here's the thing. It's Newark, New Jersey, but it's Newark, Delaware.
Oh, God.
University of Delaware is in Newark, Delaware, but in New Jersey, it's Newark.
All right.
So,
I dig it.
Yeah, I have to consciously think about it. Otherwise,
All right, what do we want to go into next? So this, to kind of give a little more context too, I feel like this week's live episode is kind of, we both sort of instinctively did this, despite my trauma from last year.
Right.
As we approach October, we just sort of naturally start migrating towards some of the darker, more Halloween light material before getting into October. I found myself, kind of looking for and watching, more of the ads are coming out, more stuff gets pushed at this time, like, get ready, here we go. And so you start kind of being drawn to that. And that's certainly affected my selections. What do we want to talk about next?
I mean, we can talk about this briefly, and that's probably an understatement. But that pull, I mean, especially for you, that pull earlier this week pulled me into two movies that I've never seen before.
Dude, I didn't silence you when we did Moneyball, so you'll sit there and you'll take it for this.
But I was like, I'm not ready to go like, Addams Family or anything. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I fill some Tim Burton holes? And I watched Batman.
Gross.
And Batman Returns. And I was
Tim, you got to stop saying stuff like that. Hashtag phrasing. You can't say that anymore, Tim.
So yeah, I was like, let's do it. It had that feel, right? It's darker stuff. It's Tim Burton.
Batman, yeah.
Tim Burton-esque. I mean, obviously, it's got that, deep, dark vibe and that gray and black palette, and obviously the Danny Elfman music, like that's synonymous with Halloween type stuff, Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas. So I was like, why not? Like, that gets me there, starts the process, but I'm not fully in. And I'm floored that I never...
To be cleared, you never sought to be cleared. To be clear, I don't know what's up with me tonight, dude. My head's not in it. My heart is in it, but my brain isn't activated. I am a mess. To be clear, you had never seen it.
Nope.
1989, Tim Burton's Batman. Never seen it.
Nope. Familiar with
Unreal.
it. I know who the major players are, actor-wise and story-wise. Like, I know it's Michael Keaton.
Batman. I had a sense he might be in it.
Right. I was surprised when Superman wasn't in it. No. I know the sequel is, Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer, and so like I'm familiar with it, but I never sought it out, and it never crossed my path, which is amazing because 1989, I was 4 or 5 years old, like 4 going on 5, and I was into the Ninja Turtles. I watched Ghostbusters at a young age. Like, it just seems natural that at some point I would have crossed the path of one of these two movies. And it wasn't until Batman Forever did I actually cross paths with a Batman movie. So
gross.
Why?
That's gross. What I don't get I'm as shocked as you. I
Yeah,
think, 4 or 5 is young. I didn't see this movie in 1989,
sure.
but I certainly saw it very shortly thereafter.
Yeah,
Probably by 19. So it hit theaters in 89.
yeah,
Some folks may or may not know Batman, 1989's Batman is one of, if not the first movie to be released for home video purchase,
right.
right? Before this, like the very late 80s and early 90s, you couldn't buy movies, right? You had to wait till they went to a network, and you would tape them with commercials and the whole nine, right? So, before, as blockbusters and video rental stores start to become a thing, they purchase the licenses from the studio.
Yep.
Each movie costs about $100 to license, right? Each tape.
Yep.
And that is why if you're as old as us or me, you remember that you would go rent, say, The Little Rascals for, like $3.99. But if you didn't return that beast, you owed like $89.
Yep.
Right? That's why there were times your parents, if the late fees got to be, actually, I bring up Little Rascals because my sister and I just wore that tape into the ground. And so if you watched a movie long enough and forgot to return it for long enough, you got to a point where you were like, well, I owe $60 in late fees. I might as well buy it and then just keep it, which is how houses ended up with these collections of Blockbuster videotapes.
Yep.
So effectively, and the whole premise is Blockbuster would buy 20 copies, at $100 a piece, and pay the $2,000, whatever it is that comes out to be, in licensing fees, because they can rent that $100 tape 1,000 times for $5 and make that money back and then some, right? So when this comes out, it's one of the first ones that you can see at home and purchase yourself, and it cost about $100, right? It was an expensive thing to buy. And I want to say my uncle had saved up, somehow someone in my family ends up with a copy of this tape. And I see this movie, let's say I saw it in 1990. I'm 6, 7 years old, and this is my everything.
Yeah.
Like this changed to the point where I'm now a grown man with Batman stuff all over my office.
Right.
So it shocks me that you would have been the perfect age for it.
Yep.
It was one of the first things to become available at home. So a lot of people got it because it was such a novelty thing.
Yeah.
And then, and on top of that, you're a Burton guy. So even if you don't see it then, right? You eventually find Nightmare Before Christmas. I would imagine you're like, what else did this guy do?
Right.
How do you not throw on Batman? I can't fathom how this passes you by.
I have literally no idea. I mean, at its core, regardless of whether or not I am a comic book or a Batman guy, I mean, I've always been like, if I ever saw the original Batman series, the Adam West series, I loved watching that as a kid. Whenever I could find it on, I feel like every time I went on vacation, we used to go to rent a house in the Poconos. Some cable channel up there was always playing it early in the morning when I was a kid. And I'd get, oh, we're going to the Poconos. I'll watch Batman all week, something like that. So
like it only airs in the Poconos.
On some like local random Bumble channel, but. Yeah, it absolutely baffles me because I see exactly what you're talking about. This would have been my thing. Ninja Turtles, 100%. Ghostbusters, obviously. I get Ghostbusters and then to some degree Ninja Turtles. Not exactly a movie that, 5, 6, 7-year-olds should be seeing. Like, those movies are pretty heavy. Especially... There's parts of Ninja Turtles that are pretty dang scary for a kid. Like, that movie is intense.
Dude, I loved that movie as a kid.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is dark.
I wore the crap out of that tape, too. So, and the thing is, though, I don't feel like I missed anything coming late, right? I don't think it's one of those where I go, oh, if I had seen this as a kid, I'd love it. I'd watch it again tomorrow, absolutely. Like, I don't feel like it's lost on me. Like, I think it's great. I think it's fun. I love the aesthetic of it, obviously. I'm mad that I haven't seen it earlier because I think maybe it would have put me on a different trajectory.
It would have changed you, Tim. It would have changed you.
exactly. Maybe, I would be full of, Batman stuff, and then we'd be even more in love with each other than we currently are.
It's impossible.
But yeah, so then we talked after I watched that one, and I said, let me throw in the second one. Let me see, with the caveats and the warnings from you. Um, and I was really on board with the second one. I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was fun until you get to like the third act, and there's a penguin army with missiles, and like it, the aesthetic was there. I love Danny DeVito. I think his penguin is disgusting, and it's so Tim Burton, and it's like visually awesome. But there's just not enough going on there. I don't understand the Catwoman plot. It makes no sense to me. Even Christopher Walken's character seems way out of place. Like, I don't really get him. And then it just totally destroys itself with the Penguin Army and bad animatronics, and you're just like, what happened? And there's very little Batman. There's some scenes, but he's really not the focus of the movie. It's a political movie about putting in a puppet mayor for the most part. So
yeah, it's Batman's a really interesting franchise because it just the ebbs and flows are so intense. I think that, so again, coming in 1989's Batman starts my fandom, and there's nowhere you can go from there.
Yeah.
As a child, right? So by the time I had seen that, I'm pretty sure I saw Batman Returns in theaters. Like, I was here for this, right? And similar to other movies, Ninja Turtle: Secret of the Ooze, Home Alone 2, all these. But as a kid, right, it's the superior movie.
Yeah.
So like as a kid, Batman Returns just fed the fire, right? Now, and then all of this is then followed almost, Batman Returns and Batman the Animated Series, they're about a year apart, but they're almost hitting at the same time. And Batman the Animated Series comes out for 3 or 4 years, and you are just like, oh my God, right? And so for me, Batman 66 is trash. Like, it's unwatchable because my first exposure was this dark and brooding and just brutal Batman universe. And the 66 stuff just can't hold a candle to it, for me as a kid. As an adult, Batman Returns doesn't hold up. Batman is in the movie for like 7 minutes. There's a point he takes a ladder. I'm like, where's the grappling hook?
Yep.
Catwoman, sure. I think Michelle Pfeiffer is incredible. I think Danny DeVito is amazing. I think they shouldn't have had 2 villains. You get the sense Tim Burton was supposed to do a trilogy. The trilogy gets taken away from him, in large part because as successful as Batman 1989 is, it isn't marketable, right? You can't make toys for kids because it's too dark. Kids aren't watching it.
Yeah.
And so I want to say Warner Brothers and DC want to go a different route. They want to sell McDonald's toys. They want to sell Mattel toys. They want to, cash in. Ghostbusters did it very successfully, right?
Yeah.
And so, and Ninja Turtles too. You ask people about Ninja Turtles. A, they may not have seen the original movies. B, they have no idea it was a comic book because what they grew up on and saw was the cartoons, and the toys were freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. I've still got Ninja Turtle toys that my kid plays with.
Yep.
So, they move in this different direction, but that means Burton's out, and you can kind of feel him phoning it in here. There's a lot of stuff there to like.
Yeah.
Aesthetically.
Yep.
Certainly the performances, as I said, say what you want about the writing of the characters and the plot lines, but DeVito and Pfeiffer kill it in their roles. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah.
And perfectly cast.
I think
but
at a point, like, that movie Batman Returns feels even more Nightmare Before Christmas than Nightmare Before Christmas does at certain points.
Dude, you're not wrong.
And when you realize it, I was like, oh, right. We've talked about the movies that made us before, and they have the holiday specials from last year, and they talk about Nightmare Before Christmas. And, Tim Burton didn't direct Nightmare Before Christmas. It was his IP, and he executive produced it. But he was, like, flying up to, like, Batman was filming in Hollywood or whatever, and on the weekends he'd fly up to wherever they were doing Nightmare and kind of check out the dailies and do some executive producer stuff, and then go back to Batman. And Danny Elfman did the music for both of them. So there are parts where I'm like, almost it's the score is it's almost undiscernible. I was like, huh? Like, I know Danny Elfman is really similar, but and it's because they were working on Nightmare exactly at the same time. It took forever to get Nightmare made. It's a stop motion, so it was like bookending, Batman Returns. Nightmare came out in '93, and it took years to make it. So, of course, they feel there's a flyover scene in Batman Returns, and I'm like, Halloween Town? Like,
that's hilarious, dude. Maybe. No, yeah, I love that you saw it. I love that you dug it. The first one is just so good. Michael Keaton, that's one of those things too people sleep on, because especially folks our age who this might have been the first thing you saw Michael Keaton in.
Yeah.
But there was a massive uproar because Michael Keaton at the time is a comedic actor primarily, right? Yeah. It's Mr. Mom, it's Night Shift. It's, stuff like that. And then he gets cast as Batman, and you're just like, what? And he's brilliant. He's so good. And Jack Nicholson as the Joker. The whole reason why when they announced Heath Ledger, everyone's up in arms, because Jack Nicholson is their Joker. Yeah. So it is, by the way, Jack Nicholson at the time, I think it's changed now. I think Robert Downey Jr. might have beaten him with Iron Man. To get Jack Nicholson to do it, he agrees to a deal that gives him so many points on the back end, because no one thought this would work.
Right.
No one thought this movie would do anything. Right. The press, as I said, is bad because people are like, F Keaton. And so he cuts a deal to play the Joker in Batman. Once the tail end is all calculated and done, he ends up clearing almost $90 million for this role. And it is, yeah, I mean, it's gangbusters, but the movie is so successful and it's so good and it holds up and it's so fun to watch. I'm so glad you dug it.
Yeah.
And so maybe now you'll be a little more open to my gentle coaxings and you'll follow me on this journey towards this Batman life that you're clearly missing out on.
That's 100%. 100%.
All right, so you want to hear what? Wait, you cut out.
I said, yeah. What do you got? That was.
Yeah.
My other two are brief, but yeah. What do you got?
So the path I traveled in my quest for something sort of dark, but not quite horror Halloween just yet, was I went on Peacock, and this has been on my radar for a while. But I watched the drama series Dr. Death. Have you heard of this?
No, not before you had kind of clued me into this. So no, I had not.
So Dr. Death, it's what's his name? Joshua Jackson. Joshua Jackson. It is, but sorry, and I'm just looking at the same time. I'm doing too many things. Dude, Rotten Tomatoes is 91%.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's about right. And 87% audience score. Joshua Jackson plays Dr. Dunch, and this is based on a true story where in Texas, this Dr. Christopher Dunch is just maiming and killing patients. I want to say in his career he performs like 38 surgeries. He's a neurosurgeon, so he does spinal work, right? Discs and things like that. I want to say he performs 38 surgeries over the course of about 2 years. And of the 38, 2 die. 33 or 34 have lifelong complications. One of them is a quadriplegic. So one quadriplegic who also happens to be his best friend. It is bananas. So Joshua Jackson plays Dr. Dunch. Christian Slater is in it. He plays Dr. Kirby. And Alec Baldwin plays Dr. Henderson. Doctors Kirby and Henderson are the doctors who cross Dunch's path, and from the second they see him working are like, oh no, this has got to stop. This dude is a problem. And so the story pretty much follows them in their efforts to get him and get his license revoked. But but what ends up being, they pursue this matter criminally. It's the first time in history that it's done, or at least in Texas. And it's a really interesting series. It's a lot more than I expected. In fact, it's not exactly what I expected.
Yeah.
What I thought was that it was a clear-cut case of like, here's a serial killer, almost Dexter in nature, where a serial killer kind of finds a place he thinks he can do his thing without really being tracked or seen.
Yeah. Well, I tried to save him, but
right.
Yeah.
And I end up getting frustrated watching it a couple of episodes in, because in the first or second episode, it happens, it jumps, right? It jumps in time. So it'll give you a few glimpses of something that had happened when he was in college, and then it jumps to the present day, and then it jumps to the past. And you kind of got to follow that, but that element pays off awesome in the end. But then, because, you'll see little things, and then 3 or 4 episodes later, they show the flashback that explains it, and you've kind of forgotten about it, and you're like, oh, right? It's a really cool mechanic that they do pretty well. But in like the second or third episode, they really start to introduce some stuff that it feels like they're trying to say it isn't entirely his fault. It's that he has something, right? Dyslexia, something or other that is causing him to do these things unintentionally. But the argument in court is that he's doing them intentionally to harm. But at the same time, and that's where I realized I had to kind of step back and watch this show differently, because it ends up being a commentary on the healthcare system.
Sure.
It ends up being a commentary on the criminal system, the legal system, and how it pertains to doctors in particular, in Texas and elsewhere. It's a commentary on political structures and how the people that we bring into office enact these laws that you don't think anything about until all of a sudden no one can do anything about this man.
Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna say, like, how the heck did he get away with 2 or 3
murder? Yeah. So and for that reason alone, for that question alone, it is fascinating to watch. Yeah. It's so well acted. I gotta say, man, Joshua Jackson, at first, I couldn't quite see him as anything other than, like Dawson's Creek, Mighty Ducks, but he really becomes somebody else. There are these moments where he just kind of does these dead-eyed stares, and you feel like the complete disregard for human life that this doctor must have felt. And it's, in its own way, absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's part medical drama, it's part courtroom drama, it's part documentary. It is so well done. Peacock also has, I just started watching it, they also have a documentary about Christopher Dunch, and they interview the real Dr. Kirby and all the real patients and all kinds of stuff. And it's I just started watching that too, because I want to see how close it gets. And it is I couldn't stop. I could not stop watching it. Highly recommend it. It is awesome.
Crazy. Yeah, Peacock's done some cool stuff. I feel like that's where I watched the John Wayne Gacy documentary a while back, and sort of opened up a whole new world of thoughts into that case, and how just pop culturally I've been led to believe one thing about John Wayne Gacy, but there's a ton more to the story. So yeah, Peacock's got some interesting stuff like that with the true crime. They're kind of really leaning into it.
No, I honestly couldn't recommend it more. It is it's so well done, and it's infuriating and just terrifying. I mean, we trust our doctors,
100%.
yeah, because it's like, if you can't trust your doctor, who can you trust? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think about myself. I'm a massive hypochondriac. I suffer severely from health anxiety.
Yep.
And, my wife teases me all the time. She's like, if I tell you to do something, you never do it. If the doctor tells you to do it, you do it every day. And I couldn't shake, like, what if, you know, anyway, it's a really great story. It's so frustrating, but yet, it's not a great story. It's a terrible story, but really well done, really well told. And I think it makes the point of, like, things had to change. And it seems, in the end, you kind of get the little blurbs. It seems like a lot of change came out of this man operating.
Yeah.
And so, in a way, I guess at least that's some good. But this dude is trash.
Crazy.
So yeah, man, check it out. It's highly recommended by me.
Dang, that's crazy. That blows my mind. That's just freaking me out all over the place.
I know. I was so worried to watch it.
Yeah.
I was like, should I do this? Like, you know who you are, Frank.
Right.
And then, but like I said, that is such a big part of it, but it becomes so much more.
Yeah.
And what almost ends up frustrating you the most, and there's a lot about it that's very on the nose.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but there comes a point where the show really becomes about, I can't believe that the system allows for this to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Because, and you understand it's a slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
Because accidents happen, right? These people are operating on people. Things change, things happen. Like, if we're going to take one person down for a mistake, well, we'd have to take everybody down. It would be the collapse of the medical system, whatever else. But, and everyone is so focused on protecting that they're blind to how different this instance is, right? Yeah. And this one person is. And they're so worried about the institution as a whole that it allows this to continue for far too long. I mean, I see things and you learn things watching this that you're just like, that's how that works, right? Like, you get fired from one place, you just go to the other. You could your medical license, like a lawyer, licensed, you have to be licensed to practice law in your state. You have to be licensed to practice medicine in your state.
Right.
But if you kill 1,000 people in Texas and aren't sent to prison and you lose your license, you can just go to, New York. You can go to where, just start again. Like, there's so much that happens in this show. And it's really well done. The mechanics they use to tell the story work really well. And it ends up being just massively riveting. So you got to check it out, man. I'm dying to hear what you think.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I had I had a bit of an opposite experience. So we've been watching two different shows on Hulu, both Hulu. Mm-hmm. Only Murders in the Building, and 9 Perfect Strangers. 9 Perfect Strangers has wrapped. It was seven episodes.
Yeah, that's the one I want to see. Yeah, I want to see both, but I'm waiting until Only Murders in the Building is done. I don't want to wait.
I want to touch on both of those. Mainly, I want to touch on Strangers because it's over and it finished. And I'm surprised it's over. I had no inclination, and I didn't read up on it, that it was 7 episodes. And it didn't feel necessarily like we were at the conclusion of anything. Like, I thought we were still on the build-up. I know you've seen the first couple of episodes, so I don't want to go into a lot of detail. But
don't do it.
It doesn't necessarily go where I thought we were going, and I'm not 100% sure that's a bad thing. Carissa and I talked about it, and she's like, well, maybe we're conditioned to have these stories, tell us that we're conditioned to believe that, like, the way this was looking is the way it's supposed to go, and we're not satisfied with the way it ends because that's just not the way things are going right now. But I really do felt like we were, like, building up some steam, and then they were just like, we're good, story's over. I thought it was beautiful. I thought the settings were cool. I thought this concept was interesting. they blow their load fairly early in what the secrets are to this place, and you're kind of like, well, where do we go from here? And it just kind of it ends,
Mm.
and I'm just kind of like, okay, fine, I guess. I don't know how I feel. I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to see more of it. I wasn't ready for it to be done, and it just feels like they sort of walked away. I know it's based on a book, so I don't know how close it is to the book. So it'll be really interesting. I struggle with a couple of the characters I really liked. I thought Melissa McCarthy was really good. Michael Shannon's always great. I thought the storylines that we were following were really compelling. But then there's two characters that I'm just like, I don't even know why they're here.
Which ones?
Samara Weaving and her boyfriend. I forget her boyfriend. What his name is.
In the opening scenes with her, by the way, she was almost unrecognizable.
Yeah,
but like totally 100% like an Instagram, influencer or whatever.
Yeah, totally. They're just kind of there. Like, we don't really explore their characters in depth. And then where they end up is sort of surprising. Melvin Gregg is her boyfriend.
Right. Ben, I think, is the boy.
Yeah,
his boyfriend's name is Ben.
Not exactly sold on his acting ability. He's a little weird. But yeah, they're just sort of there, and we never really get much into their story. We sort of stay surface level on a lot of it. But I'm very conflicted. So it'll be interesting to see when you finally get to the end of it what you feel. I feel like Nicole Kidman's kind of found some kind of niche for herself to live in with these like HBO and Hulu limited series. Like, she's been cranking these things out over the last year and a half or so. So she seems to be like sliding in and out of these characters and some of these dark drama / comedy things. And that's the thing, I don't even necessarily know what kind of show this is. I don't know. It's not a comedy. It's not really a drama. It's a thing. It exists. It's very fluffy and light in some parts and sort of heavy in others, and it gets you thinking. But I'm left kind of confused.
So it's David E. Kelly, right? David E. Kelly's one of the creators, and in the first episode, it felt very much in this new age of David E. Kelly, right? So, I remember as a kid, I used to watch Picket Fences. I don't know if you ever used to watch that. Picket Fences, David E. Kelly. I didn't know he did Mystery Alaska and Lake Placid. Those are... Mystery Alaska is excellent. Lake Placid is a random one for him.
Right.
He does Ally McBeal, Boston Legal, The Practice, and then he hits, he's a ton of stuff, right? If you don't know the name David E. Kelly, you don't watch television. And then he just finished up with Big Little Lies, right? Which gets a ton of recognition. Probably how we get Nicole Kidman into this. They work together there, and this has a similar tone, right? It kind of goes from that sort of procedural approach that he starts his career with, and then and now into this kind of, I don't know, it's almost just got this. I don't want to say Twin Peaks, but it's, there's just a darker mystery, like you don't quite know where you stand, and I kind of dig it. I'll say as much as that the couple episodes I've seen, I'm in. I'm hooked. I dig the characters, like you said. Luke Evans, I love that dude. Seeing him in something, I'm totally in. As Melissa McCarthy, we talked before, I think, that a movie is so dependent on which Melissa McCarthy shows up. And I dig the one that shows up here. She really shows that. She's up there with some of the best.
I think they take you along for the ride pretty well, right? Like, you are these people are checked into this spa rehab wellness center. It's very exclusive, and you're right there. You're like, something's not 100% right, but it's one of those things where you're asked to trust the process. I just don't know that it ever goes as deep and as dark as it wants you to think it's going at first.
Oh, you got to stop.
Yeah.
You got to say no more. Because, I mean, there are definite tones from jump where you're like, ooh, this is going to.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, see, now already I'm like, I'm not worried. John Henry Butterworth is the other creator and writer. You may not know the name, but I know him from Edge of Tomorrow. I think it's one of the most underrated movies ever.
Yeah.
And he also did Ford versus Ferrari. So, and he wrote the new Indiana Jones that's going to be coming out.
I also want to give just a shout out to Only Murders in the Building. It's still ongoing, but this week's episode, just a testament to how well something was made. We watched it last night. It was a really interesting episode, and then I saw an article today, and it drew my attention to the fact that there's only one spoken line in the entire episode this week in the series, and you're like, well, what?
And you didn't notice when you were watching it?
I didn't notice when I watched it. Like, didn't occur to me that there was only one line of spoken dialogue, and they introduce a character in this episode who is going to be a pretty integral character, I think, to the story moving forward. But it is he is a person who is deaf, and it is mainly from his perspective that this is played out. And the actor is also deaf and wanted to try and do a true portrayal of living with deafness, and like not doing it in a way that Hollywood a lot of the times does it, which I think when you see a deaf person portrayed in Hollywood, whether it's by a deaf actor or not, you get a lot of the times where like they don't really use sign language, and they're talking in a way that you're familiar with. When I say that in movies, you know what I'm talking about. And right. He really wanted to set out to actually do like a real experience of a person living that life daily. And so most of the episode is from his perspective and where he fits into this story. But even the few scenes that he is not in, there's no dialogue. There's a whole scene where Steve Martin's character is on a date with this girl that he's seeing, this woman that he's seeing, and they communicate all in just the game of Scrabble that they're playing by the words that they play on the Scrabble board. And
that's pretty cool.
Is really cool. I think it would have been funnier in this joke if it played out slightly differently, but you're reading a lot of captions, but there's still sound effects, right? It's not completely silent. They do some kind of muffled stuff. You feel some bass. You hear some kind of distorted sound, in a way that maybe you get something, based on this actor's experience in life. But again, the testament is that I didn't even think about it. I watched the episode. I was like, wow, the episode's really good. Not once did I sit there and go, oh, nobody's talking. What's going on here? Like, didn't even cross my mind. It fits in with every other episode, and I was floored to read that today. And it's super fascinating. And it's a really
that's so cool. And having not seen it and knowing who the actor is in this role, how amazing! Like, there aren't a lot of times where an actor can come in and dictate how something gets done, right? Yeah. And so if it is him who kind of came out and was like, it'd be really cool if we could do it this way, for the production team, and Steve Martin, who's the creator and all this kind of stuff, to trust that and work that process in. How cool is that? So I'm super excited to see it and get into it. I have a feeling I'm going to fall in love with it, and I just don't want to wait for episodes.
I was going to send you the article, but then I decided, it's like, I feel like I'm trying to find it again.
Did promise.
I didn't want to make, I didn't want to spoiler it too much, because this character kind of fits into some things that answer some of the questions that we have through the first half of the season so far. So I didn't want to kind of spoil that, and I'm trying to find the article just to reference one or two things, but now I'm having a hard time figuring out where the heck that article went. Oh, I think I sent it from my work email. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just super, super awesome when a show that I already really am enjoying does something kind of cool like that. You're like, oh, neat. All right. And
Yeah.
again, the fact that I didn't even notice it, I think that's, a testament to the show making and to the executive producers and things to listen to actors like that. So definitely worth a show to keep watching. It's a show worth to kind of stick with. I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes. And this actually was a heavy Nathan Lane episode too. He's not billed in this much, but he shows up quite a bit, and his character is pretty fun too.
God, I love Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Awesome. Well, that pretty much wraps things up. Like I said, it was a light week because we've been dealing with so much other stuff.
Yep.
But this also wraps up our regular episodes because now we get dark.
Poopy.
So coming into October, guys, surprise, surprise, shocker, shocker, we're going to be doing a lot of horror movies. Let's see. Next week, what are we watching? Next week's a deep dive podcast episode, so make sure you check it out wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to be doing a little vampire thing. So, and no, it's not Twilight, although those who know me know I, for some reason, love me some Twilight. We're going to be doing a movie that I remember watching it and just being floored. Absolutely floored. On Peacock, Chloe Grace Moretz in the movie Let Me In.
Yep.
And it's a vampire flick, but it ain't your daddy's vampire flick. Like, this is very different. I think we talked a little bit about the movie Maggie when I talked with Joseph in the episode. Oh, what episode did we do? What episode was that? The one that you missed?
The pig episode?
Yeah, Pig. So when we talked about Pig, we talked a little bit about Maggie, and this is kind of in that same vein of like, the way Maggie's a zombie movie but isn't. This is a vampire movie but isn't. It's a real human element to this. I think it's an awesome, awesome movie. It's based on a Swedish original. So Let Me In came out in 2010.
Yep.
It's based on a film from 2008 called Let the Right One In. That movie is also available, and it's available on Hulu. I will say this. Watch Let Me In first, right? Because it's one of those situations a lot of people are going to get hung up on if you see the original versus the new and that kind of thing. Watch the new one first because I think it won't muddy the waters.
Yeah.
And the movie is all the better for it.
Yeah.
So check out Let Me In. That's the only one you got to watch.
Okay.
But if you're curious, we'll also be touching a little bit on Let the Right One In next week's podcast deep dive.
Yep.
After that, we're going to do another live show. And then the following podcast episode, which we believe will be on the 21st or something like that, we're going to do Midnight Mass. So we'll do a deep dive on that one, hoping to get a guest host there as well. And then we'll end with a live episode on the 28th, perfectly timed and ready to go for Halloween.
I'm so excited to watch.
Tim's third favorite holiday.
Your birthday.
Your birthday. Dude, that got me. That legit got me. That was good.
We do, Maggiano's on your birthday. So,
oh god,
we did one time. I know you guys do that every year. So,
well, the last time we did it was the time that you joined us, and that was the last time before So on March 1st, so that's my birthday, March 1st. Send all gifts, March 1st. Care to me. We went out to dinner at Maggiano's, a big old group of us. That's what we do every year. And that was the last outing before the pandemic.
Yep.
It was days after that we all locked down.
You were just sort of like, I'll wash my hands a little harder today. And then that was it.
Yeah, that was back in the days where they're like, "Oh, don't worry, it's only killing people in China. You just got to wash your hands." And I was like, "This is going to be a thing." But yeah, man. So we haven't done it since.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll do takeout.
sounds good.
It'll be good. All right, guys. So that is a glimpse of what's to come. Thank you for joining us here tonight. This will be posted, obviously, here on Instagram and YouTube. There goes Greenie. He's being weighed down by his penis bone.
Yeah.
It's too much to bear. Next week, live episode, Let Me In on Peacock. So check it out and join us wherever podcasts are. You can hit us up here on Instagram. You know the handle. You're here. But it's at Pause Reviews. Shoot us DMs, comments, messages, whatever, and let us know what you want us to watch. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Hit us up on the website, pausereviews.com. Email us, pausereviews@gmail.com. We're on the Podbean app. We're everywhere. So keep checking us out. Spread the word. Share the love. We're so happy to be here and thrilled to keep doing this show for you guys. Yeah. Really, we're doing it for us. We're just glad you listen.
Exactly. 100%.
All right, guys. Until next week, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.